Hello and welcome. Sal Subnis here. That's Multimedia. Today we're going to be talking about mental math. Now let's move on to our objective. I can use mental math to add and subtract decimals. So you all know what decimals are, and you should know what adding and subtracting is. And mental math is doing math mentally, which means, doing it in your head. If you have 5 plus 2, you wouldn't have to draw 5 dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus 2. You could just do that in your head. Okay, 5 plus 2, okay, that's 7. Alright, so that's what mental math is. Okay, since there really wasn't much to explain in our objective, we're going to go ahead and get started. So first, we're going to be talking about adding decimals. Okay, and how are we going to add decimals? We're going to do that using the properties. Okay, so our problem here is 4.20 plus 9.43 plus 7.80. Okay, how are we going to do this? Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to find the compatible numbers. Okay, and to do that, we have to use two properties. Number one is the commutative property, right? And then there is the associative property. Okay, so number one, commutative. That states that any addends can be regrouped in a different order. The product will remain the 7. So if 5 plus 2 equals 7, 2 plus 5 also equals 7. So that's explaining it in a simple way. So let me get that out of the way there. So let's regroup this. Okay, let's do 4.20 plus 9.43 plus 7.80. So there we go. You've used the commutative property. Now we have to use the associative, because what we could do here, we could do 9.43 plus 7.80 plus 4.20, because it would still be the same because of the commutative property. Okay, but I'm sorry, I have done that wrong. I'm realizing now that I arranged that in the same order as it was before. I'm going to write this part down in green. That way I remember. 4.20 plus 7.80 plus 9.43. There you go. It's a different order, right? Now what you could do here is 7.80 plus 9.43 plus 4.20. The sum would remain the same because of the commutative property, right? But we don't want that. We know that 4.20 plus 7.80 are compatible because it's very, very easy to add, right? So instead, now we're going to use the associative property, okay? And the associative property states that the groupings can change, so the parentheses can change and the sum will still remain the same. So if we do 4.20 plus 7.80 first, the sum will remain the same. If we did, let's use white here, if we did 7.80 plus 9.43 first. Okay, but we're going to do 4.20 plus 7.80 first because, as I said before, they are compatible. Okay, so we use the associative property. Now we're going to start. Okay, now I'm going to go down here to get some room. We have 4.20 to 7.80. This should be pretty simple to do in your head. I'm going to draw a big arrow there. And now, let's do this thing. We have 4.20 plus 7.80. Let's do 4 plus 7. That's 11. And 0.2 plus 0.8 equals 1 whole. So 11 plus 1 equals 12. And that means that our answer here is 12. Okay, there you go. Now I'm going to go back to thin because that was the main part that you want to know. And now we're going to carry this back down. We go to blue. That would be 9.43. And we have to add those two up. And now this should be relatively easy to do. 12 plus 9 equals 21. And since there's no decimal place here, you just carry the 4 3 down. So our answer here is 21.43, right? And now, write that down. So 4.20 plus 9.43 plus 7.80 equals 21.43. Simple as that, and we did that all in our head. Okay, now we're going to be talking about subtracting decimals. Okay, so we're going to have a word problem to go with this because this will help you understand the method of compensation. Okay, that's how we're going to do it in the head. You have $3.29. Your deadline to return the money you owe to your friend is today. You owe $1.11. How much money will you have after you give all the money back? Solve using mental math. Okay, so let's write this down. You have $3.29, so that's 3.29, and you have to give away, so minus $1.11, which is 1.11, equals. Okay, and now we're gonna actually solve, and we have to solve using mental math as it says in the problem. So let's do this. We have 3.29, and now what we're going to do, we're going to round these numbers to whatever we want, right? So 3.29 rounds to 3.30, okay? But now, since we're using money, and this will help you now understand this method, money doesn't come from nowhere, right? That 1 cent didn't just pop up out of the air. So what you have to do, no matter what you did, you probably had to borrow it, right? You could rent from the bank, from your friend, whatever you need, okay? So you added 0.01, but now you're eventually going to have to give that back. So minus 0.01 will be the end result. Okay, and you'll see what I mean in the end, but just be sure to realize this. Okay, 1.11, we're going to round that down to make this easy to 1.10. Okay, and now what you're doing, you're giving him 1 less. You're giving the guy you owe $1 less. Right? So, it looks like now you have to eventually give that money back. Right? You can't just pay, if you have a debt of 1.11, you can't just give him 1.10 and call it a day. You're eventually going to have to give that back. So eventually, you're going to have to again do 0.01 minus. Okay, so now this should be simple, right? A minus symbol there. 3.30, so 3 plus 1 is 4. 0.3 plus 0.1 is 4, right? I don't know what I'm saying. Well, I do, but that's wrong. We're doing subtraction. 3 minus 1 is 2, and 0.3 minus 0.1 is also 0.2. So 2.20 is our answer, right? Wrong. No. This is just be an estimate, right? Because all we did was just round and get an answer. So this would be our estimate. I'm going to write that in green so that we understand what's going on. So it's our about symbol. 2.20 is an estimate, right? But we want the exact answer. So we're going to continue. As you remember, this is how much you would have left. But since you borrowed that money from your friend, you're going to give that back. So minus 0.01 equals 2.19. Okay, so now you paid that guy off. And now you have this guy. Okay, you paid him 1 less. Your debt was 1.11, but you paid him 1.10. So now you're going to have to give that money back. Okay, because you didn't pay a whole thing. So now minus 0.01 equals 2.18. Cross that out. So our answer here is 2.18. So I'm going to write that down nice and big. 2.18 is our answer. And I'm going to draw a dollar symbol. Okay, so now this would work with anything. The only reason I put that money thing in there is to help you understand why these operations are switching and why some of them aren't. Okay, so now that we understand how to subtract and add mentally with decimals, we're going to go ahead and move on to problem time. So, Our first problem is 4.95 plus 9.32 plus 3.05. Our second problem is 6.76 minus 5.48. So I want you to pause the video, give it a go yourself, see what you get. Okay, so now that you've given it a go, now I'm going to check your answers. So first we have 4.95 plus 9.32 plus 3.05. Okay, so we're going to change that ordering there and the grouping. So let's rewrite that. I'm going to rewrite this in white. 4.95 plus 3.05, because those two are compatible. Those would look easy to add, plus 9.32. I'm going to make that point big, because I don't think you can see that point. There you go. But if we just did this, you could just do 3.05 plus 9.32. So also add in some groupings. There you go. Now this should be pretty simple to do. Right? Remember, this should just be going on in your head. I wanted you to do this mentally. So let's use the opposite color now. Let's use red for this. 4.95 plus 3.05 would be what? So 4 plus 3 is 7. 9.95 plus 0.5 is 1, so 8. Because 7 plus 1 is 8. Plus 9.32 equals, well, 8 plus 9 is 17. And that 32 gets carried down, so 17.32 is our answer. So I'm going to write down that answer in green. Equals 17.32. Big check mark there. So I hope you got that one right. And now we're going to move on to the next one. And again, opposite colors. I'm going to use blue for this one. 6.76 minus 5.48. Okay, so let's do this. So we're going to round this one to 6.75. Okay? And you just took that money away, right? So you took away 0.01. So eventually, you're going to get that money back after all this is done. So plus 0.01. So remember, keep imagining that there's a dollar symbol here. Keep imagining that. This will help you make sense of what's going on. And then next, we have 5.48. We're going to round that to 5.50. Okay? And this time, you're giving him more. You're giving the man you owe plus 2, right? So eventually, that's going to add. You're going to get that one more, plus 0.02. And now let's add 6.75 plus 5, not plus, minus 5.50, right? 6 minus 5 is 1. 0.75 minus 0.5 is 0.25, so 1.25. And now, let's carry this one over first. 1.25 plus 0.01 equals 1.26. Carry that over here. Well, we can make that point bigger and more pronounced. 0.02 equals 1.28. So 6.76 minus 5.48, use green here again, equals 1.28. Another check mark there. Hope you got that one right, and I hope this lesson was useful to you. Okay, so please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell when you do. Okay, thank you. Now keep an eye out for the next videos to come.